Hi, I'm Ken Jr. and welcome to TrainWorld TV. Here you'll find the latest and greatest in model trains. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new to our channel, we're glad you're here, and I invite you to click the subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you'll never miss a video. Now, we'd also love to send you exclusive deals and special announcements that you won't find anywhere else. So be sure to sign up for our emails, TW Text, and stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Don't forget, you can shop online at TrainWorld.com for all your model train needs. Now, without further ado, enjoy today's video.
All right, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to TrainWorld TV. And we got a very special guest, two guests tonight, and the big event, Athearn Trains. And it feels like forever we've really had Athearn on. So welcome back, Jim Wiggins. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you, Ken?
All right, not too bad. And the band wouldn't be back together without Tony Cook. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing really good, Ken. Hey, Jim, how you guys doing tonight?
Hey, Tony.
All right. So I don't even know where to start. There's so much to catch up on, so many new arrivals, new products, great stuff. And so I don't know where to begin.
Well, I mean, we've kind of alluded to talking about some California cars, some Surfliner cars. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but how many times have you wanted to tune into a television show or a YouTube video, and they're, you know, the big thing is this subject, and you've got to wade through 5 different subjects before you get to that last one? We're not going to do that tonight. I say we just go right for the California cars, give the people what they want. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. Boy, that's been, as you know, a super hot topic.
Yeah, it really has, and it's been a long time coming. We are slowly turning that corner, and I'm hoping that early next year we're going to have some production samples, and hopefully we should have some samples at Amherst coming up in a couple of months. So yeah, we're getting close. I've got some pictures here to share with you guys as well as our audience to let you know. Now, these are pre-production samples. These are not the final good that you're going to receive, but we did want to share these with you because, of course, it's been a while since we've introduced these. So if you don't mind, Ken, I'm going to go ahead and let you take that first slide there. It should be in your deck. It shows a California car. There we go. Perfect. So there you are. These are the first samples that we've actually shown, other than the undecorated samples that we showed a couple of years ago at the national show, as well as Amherst. Now, people are probably wondering, why is it taking so long to get these made? These are the most ambitious project probably Athearn has ever done. It's our first big passenger model that we've ever done, and these things are loaded to the very top with LEDs, sound, all of that. So there's a lot that's gone into them. The actual layout of the interior of these cars is based on the actual cars. They are set up with all the same lighting. If you've got the cab control car, all of those lights, the ditch lights, all of that functions. And of course, if you opt for the sound versions, you're going to have Tsunami 2 sound. And of course, we had to work with Soundtracks, and Soundtracks went out with one of our product developers and got access to these cars and recorded all the sounds. So there's a lot of moving parts to these cars. So there's the first picture. If you want to pan to the next one or select the next picture there, kind of a give you a sneak peek on these. And yeah, these Surfliners are really, I mean, I have no business owning any, but I'm going to buy some just because they're so cool. Tony, I know you're a fan of passenger and transit. I'm sure you're waiting to get your hands on these for Model Railroad News.
It's an exciting thing because, as you mentioned, for Athearn to be making a bi-level car like this, it's been a long time since there's been a new passenger car project like this one. And again, yeah, I think it's in talking with some of your guys in the R&D side of it, there's just so much that you were working into these that it's like, well, but then we needed to do this. And so that delayed it even more. So I think they're going to really be exciting when they hit.
Yeah, that's all true. I mean, one of the things that a lot of folks don't realize too is color matching. So not do we only have the stuff that's highly visible right now in this picture, the silver and the blue and things of that nature, but since these have fully detailed interiors, different rooms, different parts of the Surfliner cars are different colors, and those are Amtrak selected colors. So we had to work with Amtrak to get those colors correct. Not only that, but just little things like the details on the tinted windows. You can kind of see in this picture, these windows are tinted. Well, if they're too dark, the LEDs are going to be ineffective. If they're too light, they're going to look kind of weird. So that took a lot too, working with Amtrak, make sure that the window tint was pretty much like the prototype. So in the next picture, so here's the control car, like I was telling you about. So in the real world, of course, you've got an F59 for motive power, and on the other end, you've got the cab control car. And these are really cool because, again, this is brand new tooling. We've never done this before. So you're going to have, with the Tsunami 2 decoder, sound decoder, you're going to have access to all the lights that you see in this picture, your headlights, your ditch lights, your marker lights, your interior lights, and of course you have all the sounds. So all the sounds that are associated with the Surfliner cars have been actually recorded. So station stops, things of that nature, that's all been recorded and they're at your disposal.
You were talking about them having Tsunami. I know there's regular cars, and then the cab control car has, no pun intended, all the lights, bells, and whistles to it. So I assume, is there standard DC on all the cars and then also DCC? I forget now how that goes.
Yeah, there's going to be standard DC with lights. So you still get the lights that will be on with track power, but you also get the DCC where they're fully independent. They can be used independently as well as the sound. So like your cab control car, you're going to have your horn, you're going to have your bell, you're going to have all of those sounds associated with a cab control car.
Wow.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I recall us buying whatever Athearn had left on these for I think the 5-car sets. Everybody wanted it, and we're definitely running low. And I think it's going to hopefully, and well, not hopefully for some, but pre-sell out before they ship and deliver. So if you haven't pre-ordered, make sure you get them in, because these really are one of the hottest items that Athearn, quite honestly, has produced in a very, very long time. The numbers are staggering. Everybody's interested in it, and it's definitely unique because you guys really are known for like all your engines and everything, but this is going to be like a high-end premium passenger car set.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's based on many, many years of research, even before we even announced them. It's been a group project. Athearn PD has been busy not only, getting that research done to the point where we announced them, but for the last 3 years, we've been testing sample after sample. So one of the reasons why it's taken us a little bit longer than what we would like is these are actually tested on a layout that one of our product developers is a member of a club of, and they get real world testing. So there'd be times where we would test earlier samples and we'd find some things that need to be tweaked or or changed, because the last thing we want to do is deliver a premium quality passenger set that's not going to work on most people's layouts or club layouts. So there was a lot of going back and forth with our factory and saying, hey, you know what, this needs to be fine-tuned. This part needs to be fine-tuned. Another thing too is, since there is so much lighting to these cars, we've tried to have it engineered so that it's not just a rat's nest of wires. Everything has a logical connection. We've tried to make it as user-friendly as possible.
Wow.
Beautiful.
And of course, the cars do have interiors too. You talked about the lighting inside and like the tinting on. Yeah, there's a good picture that shows the tinting on the windows.
Example.
Yeah. And they'll have upper and lower interior sections too.
Yes, they'll have upper and lower interior sections. Of course, those are again based on the actual Surfliner colors. So there's a wide array. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Janet told me how many different interior colors there were in. It was more than 2 or 3 colors. I mean, there's just so many different shades that are used in these cars, and we had to spend time getting each and every one of those colors right. And since it is Amtrak, we pay a licensing fee to Amtrak. They have to sign off on those colors. So before we can put them out there for sale, Amtrak has to do another sign off and say, yeah, these match our color chips and our samples, for their product integrity.
That's so awesome on the interiors. I mean, to me, having the plastic interior section is awesome enough, even if it is just shot or molded in a single color. But as we just heard there, wow, these are even going to have color accurate to the interiors as well.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be for the most discerning, passenger modeler. And really, like I said, we've done passenger cars in the past, even in the Genesis line, but we've never taken on a project this ambitious before.
And these are Genesis, correct? These are HO scale Athearn Genesis releases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the next picture is just another kind of a roster shot. Yeah, there's your tail car. And I mean, the pictures don't really do it justice. I mean, these were pictures that we wanted to get just so we could share them with the public. But when you think about all of the work that's done in just the trucks alone and all the different components that make up the trucks, there's quite a bit of work in there. And since it's Genesis, we have to put in, things like the brake detail and the brake plumbing and things of that nature. So there's a lot going on with one of these cars.
They look really, really nice. I know there's some singles. Ken Jr. was talking about that 5-car set. There's the cab control car. What are the body styles on these, Jim? There's what I see, coach baggage on that car, and then the car it's coupled to as a coach. So how many body styles?
There is, if memory serves me correct, there's 4. You've got your coaches, you've got your cab car, you've got like a cafe type car, and then an N car. So there's, if I remember correctly, there's about 4 in total. And each one of those is different. It's, we, in the old days, back in the 50s, you could say, oh, we can just make this car a little bit longer, and this is the coach and this is the baggage car and that kind of thing. You can't really do that with these because they're Genesis, and these cars really do have a lot of differences to them.
Beautiful.
You mentioned the trucks, and boy, yeah, the trucks and that swing hanger thing above the truck side frame that sticks out in the end. I see all the caps for like the connectors there on the ends of the cars. They really do look awesome. Yeah.
The other thing that we had to keep in mind too is recommended radius on these is 22 inches. However, you can put them on an 18-inch radius. It's going to look a little ridiculous. It may look, a little toyish, but we do know that people like to collect. They might not have a permanent layout per se. They still like to run their trains. So, 18-inch radius is still pretty much a standard in HO scale. I've been told last I knew these will work on an 18-inch radius.
Wow.
And yeah, that's something. And I mean, the other thing too is the diaphragms, they're going to be functional. So there's going to be that nice, close coupling as well as the diaphragms. And that was one of the things that we've been spending a lot of time on in R&D, is making sure that we've got components that are made of dissimilar materials work well together, so there's no separation. We're just trying to make sure that everything is as user-friendly as possible.
Wow. I can't believe that on the 18 curves. And yeah, I'm one of those people that doesn't have a big layout because Ken Jr. is always telling me trains. So I don't have room for a layout because I got trains stacked up all over my house.
Sure.
So yeah, I have to be able to turn things on a pretty tight curve. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us, for whatever reasons, we might just have like a circle of track that we set up for testing things of that nature. And some folks, I mean, they really are more into the collectability than they are just the layout, or they're just not in a place where they have a permanent layout. They can just set these up on a dining room table or whatever surface that's nice and flat, put up a circle of track and enjoy them.
And all the cars, of course, will be lighted. We focused on the cab car, but on these other cars, I see they have end marker lights and such. What's some of the lighting features on the cars beyond that cab control car?
Sure. I think one of the next pictures coming up gives a good example of them like in a night scene. You can kind of see there's a close-up of the windows I was telling you about. So you have interior lighting on both the upper and lower level. And of course, you've got some ambient lighting for, I believe it's the station stops. They've got the green and red lights on the side.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
This also really illustrates that tinted glass, which is really pretty hard to capture in the HO scale world. We see it in the real world every day, and we don't really think anything of it. And in the old days, we could probably cheat and just paint those windows black because that's kind of what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really quite do that in today's modeling world and get away with it. So we spent a lot of time just trying to get the tint of those windows just right so that you could tell that they're tinted. You can still see the interior. You can kind of see the seat backs and the top there, but it's still got that tinted look to it.
Yeah, and for those who question the time it was delivered, like just a simple thing like the tints. So we recently got a passenger car from a different manufacturer, and they had lights for a tinted wrapped passenger car. And we got so many returns on them because the customers thought it wasn't lighted because the tints were so dark. So like something like this fine detail that you're going through and working out, I always say I rather the product be worked on as long as possible and just make sure it's 100%. So we really appreciate you guys taking the due diligence, because it sounds simple, like, oh, you just put tints on a passenger car, but a lot of people don't realize the challenges that really do occur.
Yeah, the other thing too, it goes without saying that our product development team has a passion for this. Both John and Janik have a true passion for these cars. And John is, quite honestly, John's a perfectionist. He wants to make sure that it not only looks good, but it runs well, because I mean, how frustrating is it to have, I come from the days of doing my own custom painting and detailing of locomotives and stuff, and how frustrating it is if you get a beautiful done model, but it doesn't run well. It derails all the time and things of that nature. So this is where John really, as a product developer, really hones in on that, because he knows that these aren't static models. They're going to be actually used in a layout. And Janik, he's got a lot of experience with the Amtrak California cars. That's kind of his neighborhood. He spent hours upon hours upon hours of research on these. And that passion, we hope, comes out with the finished good. That's what our goal is.
Beautiful.
There's a couple, there's another one, kind of give you the idea of the lighting. Now, of course, if you've got the Tsunami 2 equipped versions, of course, you can adapt the CV to 0 to 255 and anything in between. So you can fine tune the lighting on the sound equipped versions. The ones that are just going to come standard DC with LED, product development, again, they're working to make sure that you're going to get the same level of detail and quality that you see in this picture. This should be
beautiful. And we had two good questions come in. You have two different versions of the 5-car set, one with sound, one without. the one without sound, does that have lights too, or will that not? Okay.
Yeah, that'll
Okay.
have lights. It'll be, just your standard DC power.
Okay.
But yeah, that will have lights.
Okay. And then a lot of people asking delivery date. We kind of went over it. Probably first quarter 2026, or maybe slightly later. I think there's going to be some samples at Amherst show.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really trying hard to get these out, probably about the spring of 2026. We've just overcome some smaller challenges as far as operating.
Okay.
And, we've basically, we're very close to getting a few little design challenges taken care of, and then we're going to ready to hit production. And once we hit production, we're going to hit it hard. And everybody that orders through TrainWorld, they're going to be really happy that we're hoping this spring.
That's awesome. And Wild Horse actually had a good question. I don't know if you know this. Can the cars be open up so people could put passengers in there, like people?
Yeah, that's a good question. The last I knew, the last in talking to John, that was his goal. That was part of the reason why we changed the LED wiring a little bit. John tried to make it as easy as possible so that you can remove the roof and put figures in. As far as I know, that has not changed. I don't think that's been any of the design changes, but that was our intention.
That's awesome. Yeah, when you mentioned the lighting, trying to keep it from being a mess of wires inside, that was one of the first things I thought of. Because like for Model Railroad News, taking them apart to show all that stuff, it's like, wow, some models can be a challenge to get it apart back together. So yeah, it's nice that that's being factored in to make that work.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just going to say, God bless the modelers that have the courage to open some of these models for HO. It's like, it's so delicate. I'm always afraid to break anything opening HO. It's like so tiny. And then you got the N scale, which is even smaller. But some of these models are so hard to take apart. You really got to be delicate. But that's good that you guys are thinking that.
Yeah, we want to make it as user friendly as possible, because we also realize that not everybody that's buying these has maybe been a Genesis customer in the past. We offered these in the Genesis because they're so packed with features. There's so many features packed into them, but we also wanted to make it for somebody that wants to model modern passenger service. And like I was saying earlier about the passengers, make it easy to do that, because that's one of the downfalls to some products. There's a lot of lighting features. There's a lot of different cool features, but you start taking things apart and you almost have to be an engineer just to put everything back together again without pinching wires and things of that nature. And we've tried to eliminate that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And a lot of people are asking about the Capitol Corridor.
Capitol Corridor. That one is not in my memory banks right now, so I'm not sure if that's a request that they're asking for or specific release.
Because I think, do those share, or are they similar to the Surfliner cars, the California cars? Maybe
they're similar. Yeah, there's some.
But
that's how we were. Yeah, I'm not sure what the capital. When you say capital, I always think of like Baltimore and Ohio.
Yeah, and what else?
Maybe they can elaborate.
The Northern California cars that are similar to the Surfliner cars.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the plan is after these are done and delivered. I'm sure that there's probably going to be other variants that will be released as time allows. This was such a big project that PD's probably going to want to have a little bit of a break between now and the next release. But I can tell you the next release will be a little bit easier on them.
Awesome. And will I guess all the cab cars have the same horn and bell sounds, or?
As far as I know, they're based on the prototype, so it depends on what horn and bell. I believe all the bells are the same. I am trying to remember. I believe they're Nathan horns on the cab control cars, and I believe those are all the same. There may be a difference. If you look at the PDF announcement that we have, it'll actually list the details of each car.
Awesome.
And I
All
think
right.
the next picture might have, there we go. Now you can really see the lights. This is where we just shut all the lights off and let it go. So you've got of course, your interior lighting. You've got your ditch lights. That gives you an idea of just what it looks like.
There was a good question there, Jim, and I can't. It seems like I might have had this explained to me at some point, but I don't remember. On the sound cars, I know it's got horn, bell, but again, it's a cab control car. There's no prime mover in there. So what other sounds do they have? Like, is it a generator sound? I think I was told.
There's a generator sound. Yeah. There's also sounds of the doors opening and closing. That's a sound file that we got. And there's, yes, I know if somebody hasn't asked it yet, I'll answer it. Yes, there is a flushing toilet.
Yeah.
So you can flush the toilet on the Surfliners.
Wow.
Sound file that we got.
Yeah, and Jim, I had to check myself, but I think this is the paint scheme they were thinking about. If that's coming in the same time or further.
Not quite. We're gonna ship one and then the other a few months later for a couple of reasons. One, let's face it, these are Genesis class models, so they are going to be higher than your standard roundhouse models. We wanted to let people get their pre-orders in and taken care of, and then give them a little bit of rest on the wallet before the next run came in.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Very neat. Beautiful stuff. I think people are going to go crazy for this. And especially now that there's so much Amtrak. Amtrak really has become a household, road name, and everybody wants to, put it on their model layout and, like you were saying, more modern era. So it's going to be very popular.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we thought, maybe by doing these, we'd be kind of limiting ourselves, but we've had modelers from the East Coast to the Southeast to Canada want these cars. It's kind of a mix of, it's a really cool car, and of course California kind of has that feel to it. Everybody, they've named vehicles after the state of California. The state of California is a cool place, and these cars kind of have a mystique that follows the name. And so we've had we've really enjoyed hearing all about the people that have pre-ordered these and how excited they are about them.
That's great. So Tony, how many sets you order?
I've got to look. I'm not sure, but yeah, and the box will get me too. Do you know, Jim, how the 5-car set's going to be packaged?
Oh, yeah, interesting. Good question.
Big blue Genesis box.
Tony wants to know if it's going to make it onto HO Collector box catalog.
It's probably a future collectible, and it's funny you mentioned that. When I had our creative crew design the first ad for these in print, I had them mimic our RDC ad from the 1950s. So if you remember the Surfliner ad, it's kind of retro looking. And I did that mainly because at the time, the RDCs were that was a big deal for Athearn, injection molded RDCs, which Budliners at that time were brand new. And we're kind of doing the same thing again. Athearn's pushing the envelope on scale authenticity with these Surfliners. So yeah, they're probably going to be a modern collectible. And I guarantee you, if you haven't pre-ordered them, you're going to have a hard time finding them, because it's when the pre-orders were open, they went very quickly.
And that's always a tough, this one, was it 21, 22? It's, again, they've had a long production period. So that, as far as trying to find sets or buy them, really makes that a more challenge at times on things that have had a slow to market situation like this.
It really is. It's a challenge because, we're faced with, okay, the good news is we've, sold this many pre-orders, and we got to get this done. And it's one of those things where we realize the pressure that PD was under to deliver this, because again, going back to, we want a Genesis level item, and we want to make sure that it operates for everybody, that it operates without any issues, that it's not overly complicated. I mean, because let's face it, it's a very complicated in the engineering terms to build these models, but we don't want them to be so complex for the end user. We want them to enjoy them for what they are.
Very neat. It's gorgeous stuff.
So it's been a long time coming. I realize that, but we really wanted to fully vet these out, make sure that they're good, make sure that they operate on different conditions. We've tried them on different layouts, different club layouts. You know, here's a good example. This is more of a daylight picture, but you can still see when they're lit up. You can still see the windows are tinted, but you can see inside there.
They're really neat looking cars. I like they're kind of Surfliner-ish in their overall design, but that scheme with the blue band across the top and the big Surfliner, those are really attractive cars.
And, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Tony. Thank you for that, by the way. One of the problems, I don't want to say problem, one of the challenges that our product developers face is color. Color is somewhat subjective. It's sometimes in the eyes of the beholder. We all process color differently through our own lenses, but one of the things that we had to really struggle with was the color blue on the Surfliners. Now, keep in mind that unless we say it's prime for grime, we're going for the day it was delivered to the railroad. That basically means it's factory fresh, it's new. And of course, the cars that we're using for our research, they've been in service for how many years? Couple that with the climate in which they're at and the atmosphere and all these other things, that breaks down those colors after a while. So we had to go back and forth and, you know, confirm with Amtrak to make sure that the colors are right. By the time customers get these, they can know that these are based on as they were delivered, the colors are correct. You know, they're not, we can't just say, oh, we took them from these cars over here, because those cars have faded out over the years. They've been in service for a number of years.
Beautiful. All right. Very nice. We're excited. And we got to drag Tony down to Amherst now to do some fine reporting.
That's right. Well, I'm happy to say that John, the guy that's been doing the lion's share work of design on these cars, he's going to be with me at Amherst. I love it when John comes with me because A, it gives me a chance to not lose my voice, and B, he gets to show all the cool stuff that even I haven't seen yet. Because again, Athearn, we all work remotely. So he's way out there on the West Coast. I'm currently right now in Central Illinois, and we're so busy during the day, we don't always show these pictures to each other. So it's a cool thing to come out to Amherst and see what Athearn's working on. Sometimes you could be one of the first people to see what we're working on.
Yeah, and it's interesting at the Amherst show. It truly is probably the greatest train show in America. And every time I go, the first day, after like a couple hours, everybody loses their voice. It's like so cold, and you're talking so much. There's so many people there. John Sacradotti, he truly does a tremendous job, and kudos to him. Great. He puts on a great show. So we're excited to see that, and I'm sure that's going to be the one of the highlights of the show. Everybody's going to be talking about the Surfliners there, so that's awesome.
Well, and the other thing too, that reminds me is Athearn is heading into their 80th year, so we'll be celebrating our 80th year at Amherst. We hope to do some neat stuff there, and you know, not just the Surfliners California cars. We've got some other things that John's been working on that we're going to have there for you to see, as well as stuff that's going to be in stock soon. So a lot of things that you guys have been waiting for, we're going to have at the booth. And of course, the biggest thing I love about shows like that is it gives me a chance, and it gives the guys a chance to interact with everyone. I get paid to go to a train show and talk trains. I mean, I can't think of a better job description than that.
That's right. And, Sid's calling it the Amherst flu. That's funny. Yeah, it's a lot of people just in one place at the coldest time of the year.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So what else you got for us, Jim? I see some behind the scenes sneak peeks over here.
Yeah, I'm kind of lying a little bit. My HO layout is actually based on the Midwest, but I had to pull something out from my roots. That's a Boston and Maine GP38-2 behind me, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, we've got pre-orders open. Of course, you can get your pre-orders through TrainWorld. TrainWorld is a great place to get your pre-orders taken care of. I do it myself, and you know what? It's just so easy. I place a pre-order, and it just comes in the mailbox and charges when it gets shipped. So one of the best places to pre-order. But we've got GP38-2s right now available for pre-order, and we can walk through a couple of the roads that we're going to have open for pre-order, so you can see what we have. And I'll talk a little bit about the lighting features that these models now have that they just recently had been added. And then Tony, heads up, Tony provided through the Kevin New Daily collection a lot of pictures of the actual prototypes that we're going to be modeling for this run. So I want to thank you, Tony, for helping us out there.
And this is the new run of Genesis GP38-2s, correct?
Right. These are the Genesis GP38-2s. The one that you see behind me is from a former run many years ago. It does not have the lighting features. These new locomotives have been upgraded to have operating number boards and in some cases operating classification lights, as well as some other refinements to the fidelity of the details of the body. So Ken, I think, there's that slide with the yellow locomotive on it. That would be the next one to share. There you go. That is from the first release. We actually showed these at Amherst last year. This was the first release to have those new lighting features, and they sold out pretty much overnight. They're really good sellers, so that's why we wanted to do a different run. Something else that Janik and I talked about was we feel that there's a lot of folks like myself that missed out on the first run of specific units, or they just like to have those lighting features. And so there are some roads here that we have done in the past, and that's why I've got the Boston and Maine one behind me, but we felt that they need to be redone for those reasons. So we'll talk a little bit about those, but Ken, if you want to go to the first slide, we'll talk about our first one, which is another railroad near and dear to my heart. The Burlington Northern. Now, Tony knows this. For you guys out there that are watching, I am a automotive and locomotive geek. So just a little bit of background about the GP38-2, if you didn't know. They were originally introduced in January of 1972. That production ran all the way until July of 1986. So EMD had a really good selling locomotive on their hands. These locomotives were primarily sold to Class 1 railroads that were ready to replace their aging first-generation locomotives, like the GP7s, the GP9s. Now, the EMD put a EMD 645E 16-cylinder engine that produced 2,000 horsepower, which ironically was the same amount of horsepower as the previous GP38, or what I call the straight 38. The Dash 2 had upgrades in its electrical and the Dash 2 components. A lot of that was learned with the production of the DDA 40X. Now, the cool thing, if you're a rail fan in those early days in the 70s and 80s, you could distinguish very easily a 38 from a 38-2 by two distinct spotting differences. One was the sight glass on the engineer's side of the long hood, and the other was the slight overhang of the cab roof onto the long hood. The 38-2 had those features, whereas the 38 had a standard cab and no sight glass. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you like to do your rail fanning, these locomotives have now, in some cases, served up to 5 different railroads. They've been shopped, they've been rebuilt, they've had a lot of modifications to them. So it's not as easy as it used to be, as it was back then. Combine that with some railroads like BNSF that have taken their older GP30s and GP35s and reshopped them and remotored them to GP38-2 characteristics, thus naming them GP38-2s. Spotting these guys is a little bit harder than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, we first got the Burlington Northern here on the screen. Of course, Burlington Northern was an early adopter of the 38-2s. They ordered 37 units, numbered them from 2078 to 2109, and a subsequent order of 2150 through 2154. Now, when they first bought them in the 70s, they had the standard Cascade green paint scheme with the white barricade stripes on the nose. Very classy paint scheme. But by 1989, they had gone to this white face that you see here, which a lot of BN fans, including myself, think is probably one of the best paint schemes ever. They did this in an attempt to cut down on grade crossing accidents. They felt the visibility would help them quite a bit. In the end, they had a really good paint scheme, and this was a paint scheme they adopted and kept until the merger in 1995 with Santa Fe and then subsequent repaints. So we're going to offer 2 road numbers, and I want you to pay particular attention to the 2 roads that we selected. 2108 is an original BN order. It has a front anti-climber, rear drop step, all-weather window. It's riding on Blomberg M trucks, and it has a mushroom vent on the nose. This is a early locomotive. It was ordered early in the 70s, so it's an early phase 1A. Now, if we look at 2343, this is a former Frisco unit, so it's not going to have the same design specs as a Burlington Northern. And so you'll also notice that the paint's slightly different if you look at those pictures there. This is also this is going to have front and rear drop steps, and this one rides on Blomberg B trucks, which was actually more common for the early phase models. Now, of course, these are going to be available in both DCC ready as well as DCC decoder with Tsunami 2 sound.
Very neat.
Now we go just a few years later to 1996, and one of the reasons why I settled on the BNSF early years is because I realized that was probably, next to my earlier Eastern stuff, probably the railroad I rail fan the most. And I'm not alone in that. A lot of us Gen Xers are getting older, and we're modeling what we remember. And we distinctly remember the 90s into the 2000s. And the BNSF early phases was kind of a rainbow era. You never knew what you were going to see on BNSF trackage. One of the reasons for that was a lot of these locomotives, they just slapped on some decals, basically some vinyl lettering, and put them right back into service. And this is those same units that we just saw. But after 1996 is how they appeared. They got rid of the number or the BN logo on the sides and such, and just put the BNSF sans serif font on top. And you can, if you look carefully, you can even see where they use a different shade of green to cover all that previous stuff up. So if you're like me and you're modeling the early BNSF era, these 2 locomotives will make a nice addition to your fleet.
That's very cool. Yeah, and I like how the patch green there, you can really see it on the 2343, how below the windows the green is slightly different where they painted it over. Yeah.
So going back to 1979 here, this is the Soo Line. Soo Line ended up ordering 53 units from EMD in 1979. Funny thing about this, and probably Tony knows this, but I don't know if anybody else would know this unless you're a hardcore Soo Line guy. These were originally numbered 790 to 799, but then they were quickly renumbered once they got on the property to 4410 through 4452. And of course, we're modeling them with those numbers because that's where most people remember them as. These are going to be a later model. EMD, a little bit different than your sport utility vehicle. Every year they change a bumper or the style of the headlight. EMD, when they're making their locomotives, they don't do that. They don't have a year for changes. Instead, they have phases. So phase 1A was the very first run of GP38-2s. By the 1970s, late 1970s, early 1980s, they had already gone up to phase 2 and phase 3. These units are a little bit later, so they're going to have the corrugated style grills versus the wire grills that we saw in the previous release. So we're going to be offering these factory fresh 1979 era in 3 different road numbers.
Very cool. And yeah, those have the Q fans in the back with the winterization hatch. And of course, anti-climbers on the front that came in with the later phase. The Soo GP38-2s, it's a very exciting, when I was pulling those pictures for the Athearn product stuff, I had a person come forward that wanted to do an article for Diesel Era. So beginning of next year, I'm going to have at least a 1, if not 2-part Diesel Era thing on the Soo GP38-2s, because some of them I think ended up as slugs. There's also Milwaukee road units that get patched as bandits and become in the Soo group. And then, as Jim mentioned, there's some with the 700 numbering and then the red. So lots of variety there. But yeah, this is kind of the popular, the common look with that, the 4,000 numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of requests for these. I mean, Soo Line is a one that we wanted to do just based on, we did a survey earlier in the year and there was a lot of requests for Soo Line. So we wanted to definitely help out the Soo Line modelers. So coming up next is still technically Soo Line. There's a picture from the previous production. Now keep in mind, when that production was out, it had headlights and it had this, in this case, a beacon. Didn't have the number boards or the class lights. These new Soo Line releases will have both of those lighting features.
I like on these when you've got a light color like the white, you notice the air intake to the left above the S in Soo, and then at the back end, the radiator grills get shot with that little bit of kind of gray, not weathering, that kind of brings out the depth and detail to that stuff and really looks sharp.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, these locomotives, I mean, they didn't weather so well, and we'll see that here in a moment. But you know, when they were factory fresh, they were really striking. That red was a nice bright red, and you know, it was kind of a bold move on Soo Line actually to paint most of their locomotive white. That's a color you don't really see in the railroad industry nowadays. There's one that Tony, you found it in the collection and illustrating exactly what you said. It's beautiful.
You got to Photoshop Tony in there. and Bandit.
Yeah.
That was a neat picture. Very cool.
And are these still open for pre-order, I assume?
They are. They're open until November 28th. So if you're seeing this for the first time, you need to contact TrainWorld right now. Place your pre-orders in. One thing I do want to stress to everybody is, in the past, Athearn would pre-order above what customers and dealers would pre-order just for stock. We're not doing that anymore. We're only ordering to pre-orders. So if you want to guarantee that you're going to get your Soo Line GP38-2 or anything that we're talking about here tonight, contact TrainWorld and they will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
That one's really sharp. And that one's in, now, somebody told me the other day, this is Kansas City. Is that right, Tony?
That's correct. Yeah, that's Kanoki Yard over on kind of the northeast side of town. Kansas City Southern and Milwaukee Soo were all over there. And yeah, the power would come in and park here. And that with the Milwaukee unit behind it, I would guess we're talking like mid-80s.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always nice to see the real pictures with the models.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important with Genesis because, again, Genesis is prototype accurate to the road number. Just because they work for the same railroad doesn't mean they're going to be identical. Maybe when they were ordered from the factory, you know, the locomotive manufacturer they were, but depending on what era we're modeling, things may have changed. Things get shopped all the time and changed. Now, speaking of which, we were talking about weathering earlier. Now we're going fast forward into the 2000s. And the 2000s, like I was saying earlier, the late 90s, early 2000s was really another rainbow era of mergers. Now, CP had taken over the Soo Line by 1990. And by the 2000s, I mean, they were basically, Soo Line was just a name only. These however, stayed on the property for a number of years, and this paint scheme faded out as you see here. And so we wanted to offer 2 road numbers in this era. And of course, for those that like ditch lights, yes, these have ditch lights. You can't have anything in the 2000s without ditch lights. So these weathered Soo 38-2s, I think these are going to sell really well. People have been asking for these.
And I see that top one, 4417, has the patch on its nose over the class lights.
Yes.
That's cool. And the other thing, when you guys, what they do, Ken, is they'll send me a list. We're looking for this number series, and we want this, and this is how they looked. And then I go looking, and it's like, and you start seeing the pattern of what they're after. And like these, you notice the air horns have been moved back on the long hood just ahead of the radiator, the winterization hatch on the radiator fans. Because I kept going through pictures at first, finding these later ones going, I can't find them that they match where the horns are up front like they're looking for. And then I got into the patch of stuff that was older in the slide collection. It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, again, these Genesis units, even though it's all Soo, like what we're looking at here is later era. So the horns have been moved back. It's got patched over class lights on the nose. It's got ditch lights. So much different. Yeah.
And that's the exact reason why somebody needs to subscribe to Model Railroad News for all those fine details and the intricacies and the photos and the comps. It's very helpful, very helpful.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Going back to the lighting features, Tony, is when we look at the 79 delivery, they still had classification lights. It was still somewhat common. The practice was not as widely used as it had been 20 years prior. However, they were still around. But by 2000, nobody was using class lights save Conrail. And so quite often these would get put in for maintenance, and they would, kind of like in the car world, they'd take out the glass lenses, they'd take out all the electronics that were the class lights, and they'd plate over it. And in some cases, they could be pretty rough. I've seen some locomotives where they just put some sheet metal on there and covered those up. And in some cases, they've, finished sanded them and covered them up, and they look like they've never been there. Mm-hmm. So in this case, these 2000 era locomotives, they don't have class lights. So that's one function that you won't have if you've got the 2000s era 38-2s, because by 2000, the class lights were fully removed from the full-scale locomotives.
And these prime for gram are so awesome. If you look, the battery box doors down to the lower left of the cab sides are both slightly different colors to show something different there. And then the word Soo on the long hood, you can see the black is like fading out, that it's got different degrees of kind of wearing out. And it looks like the white has been treated, that it has something to it too. I see on the blower thing next to the left of the S in Soo on the top unit has got some like distress to the white paint. It's always fun to see those when they come out of the box, isn't it, Ken? Because it's like, wow, this one looked like it's been out there working for a long time.
That's right.
And don't forget too, in the last year, we've upgraded our prime for grime. In the past, the paint would be faded, but they still had a gloss look to them. We've done away with that gloss. Now they're perfectly flat. So if you get a prime for grime locomotive like that, there's not going to be any gloss to them. They're going to be flat.
That's a good shot, Tony.
Yeah, and see in that you can see the distress in the white and the battery box door where that red comes down diagonally. It looks like different colors of red, and it's like, well, it's not really. It's the way it's kind of weathered, and the model's going to have that. That's really cool.
Who knew Soo Line could be so pretty?
Almost a Christmas card.
That's it. Yeah, very cool.
So now we're going to geek out a little bit, because you all know that I'm a New Englander, and Boston, Maine, that's my road. But I had nothing to do with this. But we did kind of go outbound and say, hey, what are people maybe they had missed? And also, don't forget, next year is the 250th birthday of the United States. So we wanted to start doing some bicentennial units. And, real quickly, the Boston and Maine back in 1972 ordered from EMD 12 GP38-2s. They were delivered in the winter of 73. Now, the cool story about this, and again, Tony, you probably already know this story with your background, but Preston Cook, who wrote the book Before Guilford, talks about how he was working for EMD at the time, and he was part of the delivery process to the Boston and Maine because they were delivered roughly around the Christmas time, and nobody else wanted to do it. And since he wanted to go back and see family and document a little bit about the Boston and Maine, he was up for the challenge for the delivery. So he actually took those locomotives along with some other EMD crew members, and they delivered them to the Boston and Maine from LaGrange, Illinois to Deerfield Yard in Massachusetts. Now, the other cool thing is they were originally numbered 201 to 212. However, as 1975 approached, they took 212 and they renumbered it to 200 and painted it into the bicentennial paint scheme you see here. Now, the other locomotives, originally, they were all painted in this conservative blue and white paint scheme. Now, this is a little bit of a departure from their last purchase, which was in 1962 of the GP18s. Back then, Patrick McGinnis was the president of the Boston and Maine, and the McGinnis paint scheme of the blue, black, and white that we've seen on GP9s and GP18s was common. However, by the 1960s, as the Boston and Maine was kind of running down on its luck and having some issues and falling into bankruptcy, they took a more conservative New Englander approach to their equipment and came up with this paint scheme here. Now, rail fans at the time lovingly called it the Alan Dustin Blue Dip because it's pretty simple. It's just a blue paint scheme, and but it's also kind of sharp too. Looking at it, it was really well done.
And you know, Ken, he always says this whenever they bring out something Boston and Maine at Athearn, it always, and I had nothing to do with it. It's like, Jim, own it. You know, that's great. If it was me, I'd say, yeah, they're doing this because I think it's cool railroad. I mean, yeah, so I'm thrilled. And man, that bicentennial, look at the stars and the stripes on the nose and cab. Yeah, that is a crazy amount.
It's a home run for sure. Beautiful.
That's going to be a real intricate paint job.
It's one that, you'd be hard pressed to do it yourself. I'm not saying that people can't. People definitely have the ability, but maybe you don't want to. Maybe you want to spend more time on your layout. So this is the perfect example of let Genesis do the hard work for you. And again, this is all based on actual drawings, photography, things of that nature. Of course, we work with historical societies like the Boston and Maine Historical Society. We also work with White River and Tony. And Tony has been nice enough to help us out with pictures in the past as well as this run.
Beautiful. Feel like I want to take a trip up north.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
We probably missed the fall colors, though, Ken. So.
We missed the fall colors, yeah. We're going to offer 3 of the standard paint schemes, the as-delivered paint schemes for those that are modeling that time. And, you know, these really lasted in this paint scheme, depending on the road number, up until the 80s and in some case up till the Guilford buyout. A few of these did get repainted into a different type of blue tip paint scheme, but these pretty much lasted throughout the 70s and into the early 80s, and in some cases even to the Guilford era.
It is a neat, as you say, for just being a solid blue. I like the stripe up the nose and the tail. It does kind of get a nice look to them. Yeah.
I can't verify this, Tony, and maybe somebody out there I am part of the Boston, Maine Historical Society, but in researching the color blue that they used, it's almost a federal blue, which if you know anything about early colonial America, federal blue is a colonial color. So I've always wondered if that's the reason why they chose that blue, because remember, originally their paint scheme was called the Minuteman, which would make sense. Massachusetts, kind of the start of the American Revolution. The other thing I want to note, too, is some of these 38-2s became kind of stand-in bicentennial units because guys in the shop applied the Minuteman logo on the nose stripe on a few of the GP38-2s, as well as other Boston and Maine locomotives.
One B&M. Wow.
There's the one from the last run. Yeah, it's beautiful. However, when that run was done, it was Tsunami 1. Now there's Tsunami 2, or you can just get DCC ready. And they've got the lighting features. So this will have the operating class lights as well as the number boards.
Oh, very nice.
And there it is in its glory.
Very nice. We got
I hear Bandit barking.
yeah, Bandit. I was blanking out on Bandit's name. I was thinking Baxter for some reason.
He's watching on his dog iPad in the other room, and he's probably seeing this going, have we ordered that yet? Have we ordered that yet?
I was just going to say, Bandit says if you want one of these, you can order for TrainWorld.
He wants to make sure that's on his Christmas list, Tony.
Right.
All right.
A Bandit stocking stuffer.
There you go.
A star-spangled stocking stuffer.
That is very sharp looking. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And remember me telling you about there's a few of them, they put the Minuteman logo on. Oh. And they did that. There's a couple of different things Boston and Maine did. That was a more simplistic thing that they did. They also took a couple of 7s, 9s, and an 18 and put red, white, and blue striping on the nose and made them a bicentennial.
Oh, wow.
But if you're modeling the 70s New England, you've got to add these. And especially even if you're modeling the Maine Central or Delaware and Hudson, it gives you an excuse to pick these up.
I don't think I ever recall seeing that on a model.
Oh,
Tony?
The Boston and Maine with the Minuteman on the front?
With the Minuteman on the front. I don't recall anyone, like even O scale or different scales. I don't recall anyone doing that.
I mean, it's a road name. It doesn't. Same with Soo. Both of these in this Jeep38-2 run. It's nice to see some of the kind of less common or not the top 10 type road names. Nice to see them getting visited.
I think that's pretty cool having the Minuteman on front.
That is cool.
Now we're kind of going into your former neck of the woods, Tony, Kansas City Southern. They ordered 12 units, 4,000 to 411. We're going to offer 3 different road numbers for these.
Very neat.
And this is the gray paint scheme, yeah.
The gray, yep. And then, of course, this is another fan favorite.
Oh, yeah.
When I was young and I was joining the Railroad Club, nobody liked Boston and Maine blue, and nobody certainly liked Rock Island blue. And now that us Gen Xers have gotten older and the millennials and Gen Zs have joined the ranks, Rock Island blue, or what used to be called bankruptcy blue, is really seeing a resurgence. We had to offer 4 road numbers in this. We had a lot of requests for this. And I can tell you right now, between the Boston and Maine and the Soo line, this is another one that we've had a lot of pre-orders on. And if this is one that you're on the fence about, I would highly suggest you pre-order, because these will not last. They will go quickly.
They are sharp. And I know in the past I've got a couple of Genesis Blue the Rocks, and they were very sharp. And these are the name series as well. You notice at the bottom there below the road number on the cab side, they were part of that group that all got named. Right.
The name. Yeah. In total. And it's kind of funny if you think about the time period that Rock Island got these. They were kind of going through, they were definitely in a transition stage. I mean, we went from fire engine red and yellow locomotives to this new image. And think about it. Rock Island was trying to get investors on board and saying, hey, we need investors. We need to, get this railroad back to where it was. And ordering 68 GP38-2s from EMD and painting them in this new image was definitely a step in the right direction. It was basically to boost confidence in investors and folks that wanted to work with the Rock Island. Ultimately, unfortunately, it didn't work. We all know by March of 1980, Rock Island ceased to exist. But for a short amount of time, you had some really colorful and interesting lash-ups in the middle of the Midwest.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then these went on, like Mopac, and they all went on to second careers because they were only a few years old.
That's right.
And some was patching and that kind of stuff on them, yeah.
Grand Trunk Western, Missouri Pacific, and Pittsburgh and Lake Erie. Yeah. Ended up with a lot of them.
And the little that yellow patch you see on like the cab face, the doors front and back, is that little "Don't Tread on Me" like flag, which was on those two, which is cool. I had kind of forgotten that when I was pulling pictures for this run. that I think I had a close-up picture of one of the cabs. I'm like, oh, I forgot that was on those as well.
It was basically the employees' answer to David versus Goliath. I mean, you had UP, Chicago Northwestern. They were doing everything they could to survive at this point. And so the "Don't Tread on Me," which goes back to colonial New England, was kind of the employees' way of saying, you know, we're going to make it. We're going to get through it. And you read articles and you read stories about the employees and their dedication to the railroad. They put up a valiant effort to keep that railroad going into the 1980s. Sadly, you know, history shows us otherwise, but it's a neat detail that we've added to our models to replicate that interesting time.
Very cool.
There it is. I mean, if you're an investor, you don't maybe know much about the Rock Island, you show up, you see that picture, it's like, hey, this railroad knows where it's at. I'm going to go ahead. I mean, that's, and you know, and it's definitely got that 1970s vibe to it.
Yeah.
Looking sharp. Looking sharp.
Another great picture. And I think the next picture, Tony, you sent me is that detail on the door. Maybe it's the next one after this. There it is.
There you go. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And then you can see the naming on the, so what, there's 4 road numbers. I forget which all the names are, but like there's
4 road numbers. We're doing the Illinois, the American Railfan, and I'll have to check and see what the other 2 are. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of neat that they did that. They named them.
Illinois. Wow. Interesting.
It looked really nice when they
It's amazing how there's so many details on all these different specific road numbers, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to say the predecessor or the spirit of Rock Island, we could certainly look at Iowa Interstate. Iowa Interstate, actually, it's only about 2 hours north of me. And it's a really cool railroad. It's a small regional railroad, but it's got a fan base that is diehard. And we had a lot of folks asking for Iowa Interstate. Now, Iowa Interstate, that's interesting is not only are the 3 road numbers offered here, but the entire fleet of the 700 series GP38-2s were all formally built for Penn Central back in August of 72. So they were Penn Central, then Conrail. Then they went through various, Union Pacific, EMD, all of this, and they end up on Iowa Interstate property. And the other cool thing about these is this was the introduction to Iowa Interstate's Phase 4 paint scheme. So before the 38-2s arrived on the property, they had those barricade stripes like you see on the rear of the unit. That was also on the nose. Well, they went with a solid yellow nose, and then they put the Iowa Interstate logo on the nose. And if you ever get to see these rail fanning, the other thing you're going to notice is, man, these are really, really clean. They got these in 2004, and even now they hold up pretty decent. These are the first locomotives that Iowa Interstate had painted with a clear coat on them. Something that you don't normally associate with a locomotive, but more of a car. The only downside is if you do see one of these now, you'll notice that the nose logo is in various states of disrepair. The vinyl didn't hold up after all these years. But other than that, that was a brand new paint scheme for Iowa Interstate. It's probably their most popular locomotive in the fleet, and they stayed relatively clean. They also updated the paint scheme by adding the reflective sill stripe, getting rid of the white, but adding a yellow stripe as well.
It really is a sharp paint scheme. They did a good job with that.
It's a neat road. As you say, Jim, it's a couple hours north of you. It's a couple hours north of me in Missouri. Yeah, we need to get up and rail fan that sometime because I never have. Yeah.
We really do. So the thing I like about EMDX leasing units is I don't care if you model the Union Pacific or the Vermont Railroad. You can add one of these to your fleet and justify it because these are basically the rental units of the railroad world. And a lot of these leases that ended on Conrail in the I believe the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of those leases ended and the locomotives went back to EMD. EMD then quickly painted them in their corporate image in various different looks, as you can see here. And they were seen throughout the country as lease units. I even had somebody contact me and say, these would be great for the later BNSF Smurf units. Tony, you probably remember seeing those in Galesburg where they were the blue EMD, but they had the swoosh logo on them. So these are great for whatever railroad you model. If you're modeling the 1990s to the 2000s, you can definitely add these to your fleet. And as you can see, each one's a little bit different.
And it is a sharp scheme. I mean, this was just kind of repurposed for the EMD leasing thing, but it has that classic, the blue and white is the look of like the 60s EMD General Motors demonstrator look for like the 66 group of units all came in a version of kind of metallic blue and white and silver. So it does give them kind of a demo-y look too.
Yeah, it's a neat color. And speaking of neat colors,
yeah,
a little bit closer to you, Ken, is Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, very cool paint scheme.
Very cool paint scheme. That's a really cool railroad. Now, this was a follow-up to their purchase of the GP38 ACs, 310 to 313. Lehigh Valley ordered 314 through 325, and they were constructed in 1973. These units could typically be found anywhere on a main line from Buffalo, New York to Jersey City, New Jersey. And these units were strong performers. And probably if you're a Lehigh Valley fan, you probably remember seeing these heading up TOFC and COFC trains named Apollo and Mercury. They were extensively used in those roles. And we had a lot of requests for these because it's been a while since we've offered these. So we wanted to offer these again for our Lehigh Valley fans.
those are very neat. And you say 73? They 73. Really don't. Doesn't Lehigh Valley fold into Conrail in 76?
Yeah, 76. Yeah, so they were part of Conrail, so they weren't bright and shiny like this for long. Yeah. And the patch jobs, I mean, if you're a Conrail modeler, that's a good point too, Tony. If you're a Conrail modeler, look at the patch jobs on these, because what they would normally do is they would just paint out the Lehigh Valley on the side, and the diamond on the nose, they would just paint it black and put CR on it. They were good. They were running.
Yeah, that is a sharp scheme. Very pretty.
So yeah, we're going to be offering those 4 different road numbers for Lehigh Valley. And again, yeah, if you're a Conrail modeler and you're not afraid of getting a little bit of paint and decals out, you can definitely patch these up for early Conrail as well. So yeah, you've got till November 28th. Contact our friends at TrainWorld to get your pre-orders in. You're going to want to lock these in.
Not much time. Yeah,
not much
you
time.
better jump in.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's the status on the Surfliner cars, Ken? Are they still on the website, or you said they're about gone?
Yeah. So I recall this maybe a few months ago, but I know the Athearn team was running low, so I think certain SKUs we ended up taking the rest of what they had. I'm pretty sure, and it's just so popular that I said, you know what, it's worth the investment, and but we will sell out. I mean, this is going to be one of the hottest blockbusters there are. So we got the Surfliner here. We're still taking pre-orders, and also the California cars. Like some people were mentioning and asking about. So we're still taking pre-orders on those, and I'm excited to see them at the Athearn show. And we'll definitely be trying to squeeze in a video with Jim when he has no voice, but we'll do the best we can. And Tony, did you do the GOAT as a review on Model Railroad News? The little EMD.
That's in October or November's. Model Railroad News has that neat. Help me out there, Jim. It's not a 44-ton.
It's the EMD 40.
Yes.
EMD 40.
Yeah.
We did a video on this, but I'm pretty sure Model Railroad News, you guys did a write up on this. Yeah. They're so unique and different. They're really cool.
Yeah.
And we've had to reorder them several times, so it was really neat to see. I don't know. I thought this was interesting.
It's a fun little piece, and there was some upgrades to its lighting or something on the interior, and that's in the review as well. That explains how because this actually was the last Roundhouse locomotive release before Roundhouse went into Horizon Athearn, and it's been upgraded a little bit. But yeah, aren't they? It's just such a sharp, neat little locomotive.
Yeah. and something that anybody could put on any layout. But they've actually done very well. A lot of excitement about this, and the goat one with the actual picture of the goat was the best seller. Everybody was interested in that one, and the blue version. So really unique and different. But so that was pretty cool.
Ken, if you have a moment and a chance, I've got another camera set up in the studio. We've got the 38-2 from the previous setup, and I can show you the lighting features real quick.
Yeah, we'd love to see that.
Let's see. I don't know if you have to share it or if I have to share it.
I don't know which one. This one?
Yeah, that one there.
Okay.
So this is the 38-2 from the previous run. And, you know, of course, you're going to have your headlights. But this will also include your number boards, which is going to be option, I believe it's 25. Yep, there you go.
Oh,
can you see
cool.
the lights? Yeah, it's a little bright in here. Now, one thing I do want to tell everybody, these are LED lights. So if you're watching this on your live stream and you're watching it on YouTube and you're seeing a flicker, that's just the frame rate of the camera versus the LED lights. You don't see that flicker in real life. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, this particular unit, remember, 38-2s, depending on what era we're selling, they don't always have this option. But for this one here, we do actually have classification lights, and that is option 24. And there you have it. And of course, if that's too bright, we all know that since we can take that CV, we can dim them down or make them brighter. It's real easy to do. But those are the lighting features that are going to be available on this run of GP38-2s that close for pre-order next Friday.
Nice. Very cool. And those are the DCC is Tsunami 2?
Tsunami 2, yeah. Definitely.
Beautiful stuff. And I see another slide deck.
I figured, depending on how much time you guys have, we can run through some RS3s that we're going to be offering, or we can talk about these next. These
wait. You got a lot of stuff going on. All right.
I've inundated you with stuff. So the RS3s, these are under the Athearn line. They're not going to be as detailed as the Genesis line. However, we wanted to still offer these for folks that are into modular clubs, or they just like to order deep within their railroad. So it's a lot more economical to buy 2 or 3 of these at a time than it's, say, a Genesis locomotive. The other thing, too, is where they don't have quite as much detail as their Genesis cousins, you can certainly detail it to your liking. So we wanted to do another run of these. This is from the previous run, but the next ones that we're about to show you are open for pre-order. And again, pre-orders close on November 28th. Tony, there's some in here that you're probably going to know a lot about, like these Penn Centrals.
Tony loves Penn Central.
I see the big stack on the short hood on that Penn Central. I assume it's got a steam generator. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
or
correct.
Did have. Yeah.
Did have. Yeah. Now the thing about the Alcos, the Alco RS3s, with an EMD, if it had steam generator, we had those torpedo tubes on top of the long hood. Alco did things a little bit differently. If you look at the area that's in between the trucks, you'll notice that with like the Central Railroad of New Jersey, you see 2 distinct sized boxes, if you will. That's because depending on how the railroad ordered their locomotives from Alco, one of those tanks was for fuel, one was for water. So in some cases, the smaller tank, which was about 800 gallons, was for water, and the second tank, which was about, if memory serves me correctly, about 1,200 gallons, was for fuel. And in some cases, you would have railroads that didn't have that water or the steam generator, so you just have a small 800 or a larger 1,200 fuel tank. So like the railroads of Central Railroad of New Jersey, they had the steam generators because they were used in service for that capacity. They've got both the fuel tank as well as the water tanks.
Very neat. Lots
now,
of options.
Tony,
brother.
I know you won't make the mistake. Ken and I, we know how to pronounce this. Please tell me the name of this railroad.
Take a ride on the Reading.
That's right. Thank you. And collectively, the East Coast breathes a sigh of relief. One of the things I always had to struggle with when I would visit the Midwest is when my railroad friends would call this the Reading Railroad. No, it's the Reading Railroad. And another railroad that has a pretty strong following. And we had a lot of requests for the Reading. So we wanted to go ahead and offer 3 different road numbers for our Reading modelers. And again, these are available DCC ready with a 21-pin connector, so you can add the decoder of your choice, or you can get them with the Soundtrax Economy sound decoder.
Yeah, that's a awesome paint scheme. I don't see that very often.
Hey,
another Lehigh Valley.
More Lehigh Valley too.
Yep.
And we're going to do two different. If you're a Lehigh Valley modeler, this is going to be a good time for you. You're going to have a lot of pre-orders. Conrail, of course. We know where the Penn Central went. It went to the Conrail, and so we're going to offer that for our Conrail modelers. And, you know, we don't want to think we're getting too East Coast heavy, so we do have some Chicago Northwestern. Really cool paint scheme. 2 road numbers available for the Chicago Northwestern.
That's a nice scheme that you don't see a lot.
Isn't it cool? And the cool thing about the Alco is we can go back to the 1950s. In this case, we've got 1950s. This is 1954. And as a New Englander, I won't botch this up. It's the Louisville and Nashville, not the Louisville. Louisville and Nashville. And then we've got roads later in this announcement that are right up to 2025. So the Alcos, even though they've been gone in mass production for many, many years, they still soldier on. So we wanted to offer a nice variety. These Louisville and Nashville 1954 era are definitely going to fill a void.
Very neat. We have a hard enough time for Tony to say roof. Roof.
Roof.
Yeah. Delaware and Lackawanna. Nice. Very nice. Some cool paint schemes.
Delaware and Lackawanna, yeah. I mean, that's another cool paint scheme. That's one
that's more modern.
On where your viewers are, yeah, that's a modern paint scheme. They've probably seen it. I remember seeing it when I was living briefly in New Jersey.
And you mentioned that these they're not Genesis level, but as you look at these different illustrations, you see the antennas and the air horns on the cabs are correct for the roads. Mm-hmm. You've got the tooling that it's the water or air cooled exhaust stack, so it can either be perpendicular with the hood or it's turned 90 degrees and runs the other way. So there are a lot of things to these that it's not a one model fits all.
Yeah, that's right, Tony. I mean, these are Athearn, so they're gonna be road name specific. So basically how the factory ordered them. That's how they're going to look. So they're going to have the same style horn, the same style bell. And of course, if you order the sound versions with the Economy decoder, they're going to have the correct sounds. So the bell will match the sound, the horn will match. All of that is based on the actual prototype. Now, this one here, this is really cool. This is a Delaware and Hudson, but this is how it appears right now. This is 2025. If you're a fan of the Delaware and Hudson, it's a good time to be alive because this locomotive has been completely repainted back into its original owner's paint scheme. And I dare say, next to the Santa Fe War Bonnet or Superfleet paint scheme that came later, I dare say that the Delaware and Hudson has one of the best paint schemes. That lightning.
Yeah.
Very attractive. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So if you zoom out of that, Ken, and go back to that camera that I've got in the studio, I've actually got one of these from the last run, and give you an idea of how detailed they are. You're still going to have some details to these, and they still got great printing. From the factory, they're going to have everything that the actual road ordered for their particular locomotive. You've got grab irons. You can kind of see on the nose there. There are some standalone grab irons. But we left the pilots pretty empty so that you can add your own MU hoses, your own cut levers. you can make it as detailed as you want, or you can just simply run them out of the package and enjoy them as is.
Beautiful. And, that's the great part about Athearn. They offer something for everybody. Modelers are different. Some people want, the fine details at the high level, and you got your Genesis. Some people want a little more price conscious to run multiple engines and a little more affordable. So really neat.
Absolutely. Well, the last thing that we can talk about, and we can, if we want to take questions, I'm certainly open to that, but these are brand new models. Tony, I know you got really excited about these 1870 to 1920 36-foot cars.
It's a very interesting thing that doesn't get a lot of attention on the tooling stuff. I think I talked to you and maybe John Stackpole on the prototypes and what you were putting together on them. The trucks are new. The wheels are even new. That you're tooling up or gonna cast wheels with different detail on them to match this look. So I think these are really going to be neat cars.
Well, and the cool thing is I'm sharing pictures that John got me of 3D renderings that I'm going to be seeing for the first time. So I'm sharing that with you guys. But yeah, we've done a lot of work on these, even since we originally announced them. When we originally announced them, we had a group of enthusiasts of that era contact us and really help us out, fine-tune the fonts, fine-tune the paint schemes, fine-tune a lot of the historical data that wasn't available to us. And I'm happy to say that thanks to these dedicated modelers, we were able to update our artwork and update it so that they're even more authentic than when we first announced them. So the JPEGs on our website have been updated, the PDF announcement's been updated, and now you're going to be sure of what you order is going to be exactly what you see, and it's all based on input from our modeler friends. So those are the two different models that we're offering in this run. The first, of course, is the 36-foot flat car that you see at the top of your screen. And the second is really two cars in one. It's a gondola. Now, there's going to be certain roads that are drop bottom gondolas, and then it's going to be just regular gondolas, and we can talk about that in a moment. But the cool thing about these is the decks themselves will be die-cast metal, so that will give you the weight that you need, because let's remember, these are 36-foot cars, an HO scale that's not very big. We need as much weight as possible for them to track properly. So what we've done is they've been designed to have a die-cast metal deck that will capture the wood detail of the prototype, and then the frames will be injection molded plastic to capture all the detail that would be associated with these.
I think they're really going to be, it's interesting that cars like this have existed back to, like early 60s or so, for like Mantua did some of these. So this kind of car has been around in some of the really older product lines, but I don't know that anybody, as far as a new tooled, I can't think of the last time someone did this. So I think this is going to be one of those surprise things when they come out of, wow, so this is how this car would really look. Because again, I think most of the attempts at these are as old as me or older as far as when they were tooled up. So
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, go ahead, Ken.
Now, these are going to look really nice to pair them up with, I think, the Roundhouse, the Moguls. I think they're branded on the Roundhouse now.
Oh, the Athearn Moguls, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to look pretty cool.
It really is. And, speaking on that too, I mean, we got some feedback on our Moguls. We're going to do another run of those probably in the future, and they're going to be more akin to what you would have seen in the prototype world. They won't be as brightly colored. They're going to be more based on prototype. And it's mainly just to associate with these models. And Tony, you're right. Going back, John did a lot of research on these. And in the past, if you wanted to model this era, you were really confined to two things, either scratch building them or modifying some of the old, like you said, Mantua models, which were somewhat of good filler, but they weren't 100% accurate. Now, that being said, I do want to say these are Athearn models, they're not Genesis. And in order for us to produce all the different roads and such, there are some liberties that we took. However, the folks that model this era, this gives them a really good starting point so that if they want to super detail them for their specific road and era, they can. We've just made it easier for them.
Beautiful.
So here's the renderings I was telling you about. These have not been shown. These are brand new. There's 2 decks. This is the flat deck, of course. This kind of gives you an idea of what that deck is going to look like. But there's also the drop bottom gondolas, and I do believe we'll come up to that in a minute. But as far as flat cars, we're offering 6 different roads, 2 road numbers per road. And Ken, I think that's the next slide. We show some of the examples of what we're going to be open for pre-order. Now, again, keep in mind, these paint schemes and the fonts and some other things have been updated based on modeler research that's been submitted to our product development team.
I get a little nervous with those brake wheels like that in shipping. Hopefully, I'm sure you guys are going to do a great job packaging them like you always do. But all these trains are so intricate now, and the parts are so finite. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, the good news about those brake wheels sitting so proud up like that, 2 things. The brake wheel is going to be all new tooling that represents that era of brake wheel, and the brake wheel rods, as well as those turnbuckles that you see on the cars, that's all going to be metal. That's going to be metal rods.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that will help. You know, if it was plastic really wouldn't capture the size correctly, and it would look kind of funny. This is going to be nice because it's going to be made out of actual metal.
That's a cool feature.
That's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Quite honestly, that's very smart.
Yeah.
I don't know who thought of that, but I think that's the biggest selling point for that. I think people are going to really appreciate that for sure.
That's
Well, it goes
cool.
back to our product development staff. They're modelers. Both Janik and John are heavily active in both club as well as Fremo. And so they're operators too, and they know what our models go through. So this is one of those things, in order for us to capture the detail correctly and also make it stand up, because let's face it, I mean, sometimes we're part of a modular club and we're transporting these cars. We know that things can get knocked about. So this is where Athearn Product Development said, you know what, this is better if we do it this way. And in this case, we've got, you know, metal rods for the turnbuckles as well as the brake wheel,
Awesome.
brake wheel stand.
Very neat.
So yeah, 6 roads in total. And then the next slide, I think if I remember right. Okay, so remember me telling you the next one is a gondola, but there's also a drop bottom gondola. So standard gondola would just be a flat deck with these sides on it. Because remember, this is the early days of railroading. So we didn't have the specialized freight cars that we do now. In fact, we didn't see a lot of that specialized stuff until after World War II. A lot of these cars at this time were based on a flat car. And so here we have a flat car with sides, and it was used as a gondola. But this one specifically, if you look carefully, if you look at the deck, you can see these openings, these rectangular openings. These are the drop bottom gondolas, and those are going to be exclusive to the Union Pacific, Denver, Rio Grande, and Central Pacific road names in this release. So those cars will have that detail. The other 3 roads will have just your standard gondola setup.
Very neat. And a metal brake wheel on this as well?
As well, yes, sir.
Very cool.
So here's the road names that we're offering. Again, all updated artwork based on input from our expert modelers in their field. 6 different road names featured here.
I also think like a lot of those narrow gauge modelers will probably be really interested in stuff like this.
I'm sure they will. So this is a cool picture I wanted to show you guys. Tony, you had mentioned earlier that we're doing new tooling on the wheels, and you're absolutely correct. If you look closely at this era of freight car, you see that ribbed pattern on the inside of the wheels. We're going to capture that. That's all going to be there. They're going to be metal wheel sets. That's going to be there. Also, the axles are going to be metal, and they're going to have the pinpoint edges. So they're going to have needlepoint wheels, so they'll roll very nicely. The trucks are all new tooling. The trucks are appropriate for this era. And of course, you can kind of see the brake detail and things of that nature that's in there. All of that's going to be included. The cool thing is, and I didn't know this until John told me this, back in this era, specifically 1870, so we're just 10 years after the Civil War, you're looking at these cars and they look black, but it wasn't really a black. It was called a princess black. It was basically a process of coating that would cover both the wrought iron, the steel, as well as the wood, and protect it from, the weather. And it was not a true black. It was just kind of a shade of black. And they called it at that point in time a princess black, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Wow. I never heard that. Wow. That's neat.
I had never heard that either.
Yeah.
It was new for me.
I mean, I like all the intricate stuff on these, the underbody there with the arch bar trucks. And again, the wheels, I don't know why. I think that's cool that you're casting the wheels with the rib back thing. And I think the face of the wheel maybe has raised letters or something to it as well.
That's right.
I'm real eager to see those. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, the raised lettering is really cool. The other thing that's really cool is the brake wheel. You'll notice that is a brake wheel that has not really been done in the industry. There's a lot of, the 1940s through modern brake wheels that are out there. This one is all new tooling. In order for us to capture that look, we had to come up with new tooling for that. Also, the era-specific K-brake system is all outlined there. So that is something else that's all new tooling. And like I was saying earlier, the metal turnbuckles, they're not plastic.
Very neat.
So the cool thing is, on this next slide, I want to let everybody that's watching TrainWorld right now know, if you are interested in this period of model railroading, then we're basically using these first two cars as a springboard to see what kind of interest there is. We want to see if there's enough interest, and if we sell enough pre-orders of the flat cars and the gondolas, it allows us to build more era-specific cars like this coal car. Now, this coal car that you see here is based on the models that I showed you earlier, but you'll notice some differences. Of course, the sides are bigger. There's some different pockets on the side of the sill to hold the sides. The other thing, too, is the CAD illustration that we're using here can't really do it justice. But going back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, coal, when it was harvested out from the ground and put into transport, it wasn't like it is today. Today it's very fine by modern standards. Back then, it was big and chunky. And that's what we're going to do. We want to model loads that look like the loads that they had at that time period. So big, chunky pieces of coal. So this is a coal car that we're proposing. If we get enough pre-orders on the previous two models, we're going to go ahead and start looking into producing.
That's awesome.
That's very cool. Yeah. And again, this is a kind of an era of railroading that's a challenge for those that pursue it. And then for a lot of us, it's like, well, I never thought about it because there wasn't anything available really.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that something like 3D print, or is that like in the factory, it's going to be tooled up?
So this is based on a CAD drawing that our engineers used to make that. It's not indicative of the finished drawings that we give the factory, but it gives everybody an idea of what the finished car will look like.
Very neat.
Oh, cool.
So the next one, this is that same car. Some important details I want to point out here. If you look carefully, you can see the pocket sides on the frame of the car. That's going to be all new tooling, and that's going to allow, basically in those days, they were taking flat cars and using them for various different purposes. The other cool detail I want to show, and it's very subtle, so you got to look at it, but if you look on the inside middle of the car, you'll see those supports.
Yeah.
Those are to replicate the old wrought iron internal supports that would keep the car's sides from bowing out when they were fully loaded. That's going to be a detail that we're going to add.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
And then finally,
we'd
like to do a tank car too. Again, it depends on how many pre-orders we get for the ones that are out right now. But this opens the door really to fans of this, I want to say, forgotten era of model railroading.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that since Athearn is kind of dipping their toe in these waters, that it excites enough people that we can produce these cars. So again, if you like what you see as far as the flat and gondolas, please give TrainWorld a pre-order. And if we get enough pre-orders on them, we'll be doing more of this era of car.
Wow, exciting to see these. I know John had alluded to that in an email with me of there's other things we would build on them, but yeah, neat to see this potential for a coal car and a tank car could be future releases. Wow, very cool. Thanks for sharing these, Jim.
And we can thank John for that. John has done a lot of work on these cars. I mean, a lot. And the thing that's hard about this era, and Tony, you would know this probably better than anyone, the problem with this era of car is, after World War II, we can find all kinds of pictures of PS1 boxcars and different types of freight equipment. But from 1870 to roughly 1920, you didn't see a lot of pictures of freight cars unless you were lucky enough to find a builder's photo. And so that's probably why a lot of this hasn't been done. John had to spend a lot of time looking for pictures. And you figure, well, why weren't there a lot of pictures of this era? Well, think about it. Photography was relatively a new technology in 1870, and it was probably pretty expensive too. So were you going to spend that money to take a picture of you and your new bride or a picture of a freight car?
Oh, freight car every time.
Yeah, everybody hears that freight car. So we think that's probably why there's not a lot of pictures. But the other thing too is the beauty of this is by us going live with these pre-orders, we had a bunch of guys approach us that somehow had pictures of this stuff. And we were able to do it.
That's good.
Wow. Yeah, it's a very exciting thing because, again, as you say, it's kind of a era of both railroading and in model railroading that hasn't had enough attention or spotlight on it. So very cool to see Athearn jumping into this.
I'm going to grab a cord real quick. I'll be right back.
Beautiful stuff. And while we're waiting on Jim, also, if you're looking for train news, make sure you head to Model Railroad News. They got great magazines, and they feature all the major manufacturers and tons of Athearn reviews as well, and some really great stuff. So make sure you check out their website, White River Productions, and subscribe to Model Railroad News. Tony Cook does a great job with all his publications, so make sure you check it out.
Thanks, Ken. And yeah, if you see that December cover, the first ever Genesis in scale, the acid tank cars there on the bottom of the cover. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, those are gorgeous. Really neat.
That was a first for Athearn. That was I believe, our real first ground up Athearn Genesis and N scale, and they've done really well. And it's amazing what we can do in N scale now. It's almost, for the N scale guys out there, it's anything HO can do, we can do better. And we're definitely taking up that challenge at Athearn.
That's very cool.
All right. So, was there anything else you needed to show or grab, or
that's pretty much it.
Just charging the iPad or?
Yeah, we're plugged in now. We should be good, and I've got a backup camera. Just in case.
Awesome.
I always have a backup.
All right, Tony. So get your pre-orders in. You heard the man.
Absolutely, and especially on those old-time cars. That I'm excited on those. I did not know. And I think I even wrote it up for that. They're on the cover. They're the top cover of January's Model Railroad News that I just sent to press. But yeah, the drop bottom and the regular gondola. So I got to look and see what I'm getting on those to make sure I have both versions. What'd you say? It's a Rio Grande and what are the two drop bottom and Union Pacific?
Central Pacific.
Cool. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, those are the ones, and it's just a cool detail. I mean, it really, like I was saying earlier, it really goes back to a different era of railroading where they didn't have the specialized freight cars like we do now. We're kind of spoiled. Yeah. Back then, they had to get creative. They were basically talking about folks that were building freight cars that were also building coaches and things of that nature at the time. So it's a really interesting period of history.
Very cool.
And big key takeaway, make sure you get your pre-orders in, because I have noticed a lot of recent stuff that I try to go back for more and it's already sold out. So make sure if you like an item, especially these projects are going to be home runs. So make sure you get your pre-order in for sure. And don't wait. Don't wait.
Yeah, don't wait. You don't want to be disappointed, because again, we're tightening up on our pre-orders. So the best way to guarantee that you're going to get something that we talked about tonight is to contact TrainWorld and get those pre-orders in.
That's great. And just checking our screen now, we list over 2,500 Athearn products. It's amazing. And both HO and N scale, just tons of product. You could shop by brand, Athearn, and we listed all separated for you. Genesis, ready to roll, Roundhouse, but tons of product, and you could easily sort new or pre-orders. And it's probably about 50-50, half in stock, half on pre-order, but tons of options and lots of good stuff. So, but a lot of people are psyched for those California Surfliners, and so make sure you head to the Amherst Train Show if you free, available end of January. John runs a great show, and it's really a great time. And hopefully, Tony, I'm not sure if you're going to be heading down there or up there, but hopefully we could see you there. And Jim, we'll see you there with or without our voices.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Athearn's happy to say we'll be in the Better Living Center once again, right in the middle. I believe it's 34A. So we'll be right in the middle of the Better Living Center. Pretty good sized booth this coming year, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I thank you both very, very much for coming on tonight. And Jim, it's always a pleasure. I feel like it's been way too long. We got to do this more often.
Yeah, we do.
We didn't even scratch the surface on everything. It was just like a few main projects, but there's a lot of great stuff that Athearn is producing and offering. And Tony's going to be busy with reviews for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know Tony's got a sample of that Surfliner back there that he's gonna be the first one. That's it.
Yeah, we always gotta take care of our friends at White River. They get the message out there. Going back to about projects, we only scratch the surface. If this is the first time hearing about Athearn pre-orders, if you get a chance, go to athearn.com and select the new announcements tab. You can see everything that we're offering that's available for pre-order through TrainWorld. So you can make your shopping list there and then go over to TrainWorld and place your pre-orders. Just don't wait too long.
Very cool.
All right, gentlemen, we thank you very much. And if we don't speak to you, happy holidays to everyone out there, to Tony, Jim, and everybody watching. We really appreciate your support throughout the years. And happy holidays to you and your family. Have a great night, everyone.
Happy holidays. Take care.